Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
We are on episode 2 of The Woman in the War, and this is a spoiler chat.
So, if you haven't watched it, you can watch it on BBC iPlayer now. I think they're showing 2 episodes this weekend. Are they doing 2 per weekend?
I don't know.
I think that's the way it's working.
It's I Talk Telly here, he'll know.
Yeah, I think is it this every Sunday and Monday? Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's every Sunday after this. I don't know. Anyway, episode 2 starring Ruth Wilson, Daryl McCormack. I always want to hesitate when I say, is that his name? Daryl McCormack? Yeah, Daryl McCormack.
Daryl.
What did I say?
Darren.
Did I?
Sounded
Daryl McCormack. And a particular shout out has to be given to Simon Delaney, who plays the local rural cop.
But I have to say, there isn't a weak performance in this. This is a stellar cast.
Oh my God.
Stellar. Yeah. Every person, every scene, we go, oh my God, don't we?
Absolutely.
I actually found it really grueling to watch. Has anyone been left feeling a bit upset?
Faith Goodman, blimey, those nuns were so cruel. Elliot Gonzalez, that ending, absolutely.
I cannot believe in the brilliant Mother Superior who gave us...
We'll get to her.
Just saying that we get to that, but who gave us that feeling, that real feeling of just how fucking nasty they were.
So if you're not too sure what this is about, this is essentially about the Magdalene Laundries, and this is about a woman or a group of women, Ruth Wilson being the main protagonist that we're following. She sleepwalks, she does things in her sleep that she doesn't know about or can't remember or regrets.
She hallucinates, she's violent, she binges on snacks.
Exactly, and it's kind of transpired in these first 2 episodes that obviously this is partly the traumatic response, well entirely the traumatic response she had to being in a Magdalene laundry and clearly having her children or their children taken away from them. Just to clarify, the Magdalene Laundries are for fallen women. They were created in Ireland, interestingly, by the Protestants originally, then taken over by Catholicism, and running until, you guys were saying, as recently as the 1990s. 1996.
And you know, girls could be put in there for any reason. I mean, mostly I think for pregnancy, but as we learnt in yesterday's episode, one woman, and I think these will all be based on true stories, was put in there because she was very beautiful, and so they assumed that she was tempting married men. Really something out of the absolute dark ages.
And something else that does pop up later in this episode is in Lorna, is the character played by Ruth Wilson, in her character remembering the phrase that the nuns used, you're not locked in here, you can always leave, the doors are always open, it's that ultimate passive-aggressive kidnapping.
Because of course they weren't.
They couldn't go, because who would have you?
And the babies were taken, now we know that some babies were, of course, murdered, other babies, given away, and just an absolute tragedy. And I think today, today's episode took us right in to the convent, didn't it? And I just kept thinking in terms of having just had a baby. I can still remember so clearly all the feelings, the pain, the emotions all over the place, the terror, and all these young girls that were ripped away from their families, from their schools, worked for 16, 17, 18 hours a day, physically tortured and punished. They had their babies taken away. So it's what I said to you, didn't they? They should still be hunting down every single person that had a part in that.
Like they do the Nazis.
Like the Nazis. It's like these were children tortured in every way imaginable.
I mean, you asked the question at one point.
It made me so angry.
I mean, you asked the question at one point, and maybe someone here because the nun concept or the convent concept is something that I think in the UK generally is quite a struggle to kind of understand. But what would drive you to such? Why is there such a sort of synonymousness between? Not all nuns, obviously, but I mean, huge numbers. But where is the connection? Why?
Why?
Is it the bitter and twisted restriction and restraint of not being able to do the things that perhaps they had a sort of jealousy, not an obvious jealousy of these other younger fallen women having done it, but because they so knew it was wrong, they wanted to sort of mete out the punishment for their inability to experiment or indulge in some of the things that they were punishing.
Who can know? But Anne-Marie just said there, as many messages are going up, the nail clippers. What an astonishing scene that was. Again, like Mark said yesterday, underwritten in a good way. You know, that story with the nail clippers where the nun would cut her fingers so then she would bleed, and then the line about the sharks.
Yeah, blood in the water. Because
Oh
what she would do,
my
the act of
God.
cruelty would be, she would cut her nails down so close
If she made a
if she made
crease
a
in the ironing.
mistake, that when she then touched the clean white laundry, her bleeding fingers would leave blood, and she'd get into more trouble with the next
Proper
nun.
trouble.
Proper
So
trouble.
something more painful than having your fingers cut with clippers.
But
Every one of these people should be hunted down and brought to court.
the layers of cruelty in that is what leaves me absolutely sort of staggered. It's the layers. It's the subtlety. It's the subtle sadism. I mean, is that a contradiction? I mean, it's such sadism, and yet it's done in such a low-key way that a pair of nail cutters. So the nail clippers were incredibly powerful. This moment where a sort of self-help group has been of women in these Magdalene laundries have been brought together. There's a guy who's a lawyer. He's going to sort of annotate and pull together all their stories, seek some kind of recompense or answers to what's gone on. Now, of course, the nature of this show is the woman in the wall is who the hell's the woman in the wall? Well, we were kind of shown quite obviously. Spoiler alert. That the woman in the wall at the end of episode 1 was the woman found dead in Ruth Wilson's place. And wow, a brilliant, I thought, kind of it wasn't overly emphasised or really indulged or exploited, was the kind of, it was a big twist, I thought, about who she was and what potentially she was coming to try and do. Who the woman was that she cemented in the wall.
Yesterday when she looked so like the nurse.
Well, no, but I suppose...
Because when she took the baby away, when we saw in that scene where she took Lorna's baby away, she looked worried and frightened. She didn't look like she was one of them. Just want to interrupt quickly because Lucy gave us a bit of insight there. She said lots of the nuns had been put in the convents themselves by their families and would have been badly treated, not as an excuse, but maybe...
Hurt people hurting hurt people. Hurt people hurting hurt people, perhaps. Yeah. Interesting. Isn't that weird, though? Again, a similar thing, and I am going to draw the parallel, a similar thing in the studies that I'd looked at, in the concentration camps around the topic that we were looking into. Similar kind of... the structure of the kind of management of the concentration camps was such that they would instill hatred and rivalry between inmates rather than towards the people who are keeping them captive. And so that ability to create sort of internal squabbles and hate, it's a similar thing here, isn't it? It's a similar thing here directed towards the women. What was I saying? Sorry, just before we jumped off, I lost my thread. Sorry, I was saying something about the scene with the
nurse in the wall.
Oh yeah.
I didn't feel
film,
that was a big twist.
Oh, I did. I thought it was massive because I thought at the beginning of this episode you saw that really, I thought, striking shot of the cement against the wall, almost a bit too obvious. It was always a bit not cartoony, but a bit graphic. As in graphic novel, it was a bit extreme, a fairy tale, almost kind of like a nightmarish fairy tale. But the idea that I'm getting, that clearly this woman who has been taken out was perhaps, as we discovered in this, was coming with the information and the news and the salvation. I didn't get that until today.
Oh, right, because when... in the pub, when she went crazy in the previous episode, when the guy from her past came up and spoke, she went, "She's not coming. How do you know she's not coming?" I felt like she was like, "Oh, I'm going to get the news."
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, maybe it was there, but I really felt the full effect because, of course,
twist.
you've got this other woman, and again, that brilliant relationship between one of the other women and what's her name, Clemence. In the Magdalene laundries, and you're thinking, why is there this kind of extra beef between the two of them?
Well,
why
I
aren't they united?
I knew it was going to be a case of her grasping something.
Right.
I didn't think because of the way that the one that's an addict was looking at. They all had such hate for her when she walked into that room, that first meeting. I thought, oh, she stitched them up. Somewhere she stitched them up.
Yes.
So
do you think Ruth Wilson has killed the woman in the wall?
Yeah.
I don't. I think she's been placed there because people know that she sleepwalks. I think she's been framed. I think she's been framed. Just coming off the so you had this interesting, you're right, the sort of grassing flashbacks to Clemence, this woman, Ruth Wilson's character Lorna, that terrible, oh my God, which makes sense of the ending, the way in which she was made to kind of dob her in, going to look at the babies, so that she could then be with her baby. And let's save the final line to the end of this review, because oh my God, what a horrific final line.
But on that, you think she's been framed? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, because the which
Do you
we
think
knew
she's
the
been
name of
framed?
the one, the Clippers, the one that had her nail.
Yeah, the woman with the clippers. Let me get a cast.
Who is very, very, very broken and very damaged and has been doing drugs and all of that.
Is it Amy?
Haida Faye. Look at her. That's the actress. I'll be
Yeah.
looking out for her. She's fucking brilliant. But when she went, us mothers have got to stick together.
Yes.
And I thought, and she went like that.
Yes.
Her back went like that. And the guy that said, we all know who did it. Maybe she's done all of it. And she's allowing everyone, because she knows that Lorna hallucinates. Maybe she's done all of it.
No, I agree.
And Lorna hasn't done anything.
I think Lorna has done nothing. But Lorna has kind of, Lorna can't, it's that terrible part of an American Werewolf in London where you don't know what you've actually got up to in the night. So she's presuming that, oh my God, yes, it probably was me.
We know she set fire to the car.
Well, yeah.
But she set fire to the car because she was triggered at the memory of being dragged in there by the priest. Not because probably that she killed him and she's trying to wipe out the evidence.
Which is why the woman in the shop did nothing when she saw her wandering up there.
Yeah,
This is fantastic. This is a character moment which will make people think she's a loop-de-loop and she's the one who's done everything. So are they all still actually pulling against each other or not? So the other thing I just wanted to give a shout out to is Daryl McCormack at the centre of this. What's really clever, I think, about this...
I've wondered whether he's done it because he's definitely been interfered with by the priest.
Yeah. What I think's really clever about this is that you would think otherwise an almost entirely female skewing kind of subject around motherhood, maternal, the grief, the trauma, the seeing ghosts. I love the way in which through the soundtrack, the image, the photography, the scenery, the scenes, the setups, you've got this real sense of ghostliness and apparitions and visions, and which is that layered sense of internal mental strife, which I just think is really good because sometimes it can be done really badly. A big shout out to whoever does the sound design on this. The sound design separate to the music is sensational.
It's really, really adding that layer of terror. I mean, that bit when Daryl's character is chasing her down that alleyway.
Yes,
I thought, I can't bear this.
Yeah, that could have not worked.
This is too terrifying.
Yeah, but just a quick shout out to Daryl McCormack. His character, what I think is really clever about this, and I don't know if this is something that any of our Irish followers feel, you remember when we saw Jerusalem, the play with Mark Rylance, and at the end of it you had that pounding sound and you had a sense of the kind of medieval archaic history of the Britain kind of coursing through. In this, I feel like you feel the trauma is a national trauma. And you feel the trauma's reverberations going through men and women. And you can even hear in the slightly comic, policeman who's got his kind of comic one-liners, his own denial in his own defense of why they shouldn't go there. And that actually he's just signing up to kind of like, this is what we say, this is how it is, this is the way things run, this is the way it goes. But you feel that everyone is inextricably traumatized, not just through direct involvement, because he says that he was born in one of these places, doesn't he? He was brought up in one. But just the fact that everyone knows it's there and part of the history. And I don't know whether that's something that other Irish followers here feel. Because I think that's really clever. I think, Daryl, it doesn't feel like Daryl McCormack's a bloke sitting on the edge. You feel he's feeling what he's feeling. And it's every
because he's
bit
been abused by the priest.
Yeah. But also I just
he won't know his mother, but he knows his mother's suffered. That's why he was so rageful with the Mother Superior, because everybody knows what happened in these places, and she's sitting there saying, it was all very lovely and we were just like, nobody gave us any money and we just worked them like donkeys.
Yeah.
And that's what he was triggered again. We're seeing him being triggered all the way.
Yeah, there are the obvious triggerings, but what I really like is the way it's like it's there. It's almost like it's a national DNA thing. It's a kind of, it's just...
It's not beyond all possibility that he killed him.
Wow. And so,
I think he might have killed the priest.
Do you? What about the nun? Let's go to the nun, the old
Mother
nun.
Superior.
Oh my God, no, that's so scary. That stern flint that kicks in when it kicks in.
something so powerful when an actor just sits absolutely still. She hardly moved a muscle, and yet what came up and out of her was petrifying. And you imagine again, young girl, she's been ripped away from her family, she's had a baby's been taken away from her, she may well still be bleeding, she's working 6 hours, and then you get called to the Mother Superior. That one, I mean, it was we felt like we were living that life of those poor girls. Hunt these people, every one of them should be brought to court.
And her assessment of the
Oh
woman
my
who...
God,
you know,
however old they are, they should go to bloody prison.
and her assessment of the woman who's presumably in the wall, who's in the is that she couldn't cope with what she had to do. She wasn't made of tough enough stuff. Tough enough stuff. Here, look at this. Laura Byrne. Sorry to share this because it's very personal. My grandmother was in a Magdalene laundry.
Oh no.
Her family were very well off but didn't want the shame. Whereas another relation on the other side of my family was in the same situation but was allowed to stay. Oh, bloody hell. Bloody hell. Hilda Fate is a wondrous actor. Yeah, recently saw her in Druid Theatre production of her Casey's plays. Worth
Love
seeing
to
on
see
stage.
her
I'd love to see
on
her
stage.
again. Yeah, yeah.
She's just wow.
So you had that. So you had that fun stuff, and then you had and again, we talked about this in last night's episode. The ability to have This is a procedural. It's a whodunit. It's a cops thing. It's a rural urban
And it's a
thing.
piece of history.
And it's a piece of history. And there are some really comic-like moments that only the
brilliant.
Irish can do.
It's an absolutely brilliant series.
So,
Brilliant treat.
yeah.
Though I am finding it, I mean, I feel unsettled.
Yeah. Well, and there was a gag about crisps. I mean, crisps seen as a sign of insanity has got to be good because he actually wanted to do what he did. Mix up the crisps to create a unique
It distracted
flavour.
me though. I was going, what was wrong with what I mixed? I wouldn't put something in.
And finally, we can't end without Elliot, as you said, the final line in the flashback when it becomes apparent that she's given the choice, isn't she, Lorna? She said, look, you've dobbed your friend in. Here's the babies. You can have some time with your baby. Go for it. And it just dawned. I got goosebumps when she said, which one's mine? Oh, no. She said, call yourself a mother.
What was the Latin line about mother?
Oh my God, yeah, show thyself a mother.
Vile.
Show thyself
These
a mother.
girls were not born to be mothers. Oh my God.
I just keep feeling Sinead O'Connor throughout it. It's really weird. I keep getting sort of moments around that. So.
And I don't know if Lee is here, but Lee, it's your birthday today, Lee
Durrant.
Durrant. So, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lee. Happy birthday to you.
And it's Nanny Di's greatest fan. I don't know if you're here, Fifi, but we'll steer you here on Instagram. So Fifi, happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Fifi.
No swearing.
Happy birthday to you. Oh, Lee is here.
Oh, Lee, you're here.
Oh, happy
bless you.
birthday, darling.
Guys, episode 3, I guess, and I think, I haven't looked at the schedules. Is it on next Sunday? I think it might be. But anyway, we'll see you in the morning for Coffee
Moaning.